Well, YouTube, we're gonna get started on this build here. As you can see, I've got some material pulled out already. Basically, what we're gonna be doing is two 12s in the back here. It's gonna be a replacement for the back seat. This car's pretty small, so back seat was pretty unusable anyways. So I wanted to make it a permanent two-seater and you get some big bump in here. You can see we got some of the trunk pulled apart too. So now my challenge is to be figuring out how exactly to make it all fit. You can see this big hump here. I think that's going to be where I place the bottom of everything. Everything's going to work up from there. So we'll have dead space, but we'll make it look nice. And then I like to try to keep it kind of below the window line. And the other thing was the seats coming back. So I have a general idea of how much space we have to work with. It'll be plenty for 12s. They're not going to need much more than the 5 or 6 cubes total for the whole box. So that'll work. And then in the trunk area, we'll be putting the amps. And so right now I'm just kind of getting an idea of what I'm working with. Going to get some measurements and play with the design tonight. I'll probably go ahead and do the wiring first and already dug into the head unit for this car. So this is a 2016 Scion FRS. Not too many builds in these if you look around YouTube. So this should be the only one you'll really find with anything going on. It's a sports car, and so it's not generally used for stereos, but that's what the customer wants, and we will do that. So I already have some ideas of things to think about. We want to keep the box secure in here because this car moves around pretty good and we want it to be safe. I really don't want to tap into anywhere I don't have to, especially thinking that I think the fuel tank's got to be under here. So I want to utilize what I have. I have quite a few factory bolts locations for the seats. So I'm going to reuse these bolting locations and build like a little framework that comes up flush here. So it'll be like the platform, and then the box can rest on that and be tied into that. So definitely going to utilize what I have right here. There might be some contact points up here where these are. I just got to dig into it and decide. And then this space here, these are just foam fillers. And I think what I'm going to have to do is, since I want to put a pair of batteries here and an amp, replace this filler with an actual little platform also of wood. And that way I can put the factory flooring back in and it would look pretty clean and be substantial, and everything's going to be tied down. So that's some obstacles to deal with, but I think there's a lot of options here of things to bolt to. So anyway, gonna have to play with that a little bit. I'm gonna pull out the side panels too. These rear speakers are getting replaced with some McLaren 6.5s that will be kind of incorporated into the box, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to continue pulling that apart and getting a plan. These will go back in, and I'm just going to trim them in to the box. It'll all kind of look like it belongs. So we'll get to that. So also, I'm waiting on some more of the wiring for the harness, so I don't have to cut into this harness or anything to do the new stereo. We're putting a Pioneer touchscreen in this, and I have enough to get it playing. So I did want to test the rear speakers to make sure everything was working for what I do have. I don't have the backup camera and some of the other little accessories yet, as far as the wiring harness adapters. So those will be coming. Otherwise, we do have everything else, such as subs and batteries. So we'll be running a pair of these full throttle Group 34s. You get those through me on my website. We also have a pair of DC audio level 4 12s. You can get those through me on my website. And I will have an unboxing video for these. So here's the pair of McLaren 6.5s. You'll be able to get those through me pretty soon. I'm still adding those to the website. And then the DC audio 3.5K, which is also there. If you're wondering the site, I have a link in the description. It's cheapandbase.com. You can see it's a DC 3.5K, and I'll have unboxing videos going with that stuff. And then we also have some stuff from Sky High Cardio, such as wiring and RCAs. You can see here I'm an authorized DC dealer. We got fuse holders, amp inputs, battery inputs, everything, the whole 9 yards, lugs, you know. So anyway, we'll have plenty to work with, and I'll go through it all, and we'll do a series of videos talking about what I'm going to do. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. We got the interior out. Let's get into the planning process, and probably the wiring, because those are the first things I'd like to get tackled. The box is going to have to start in a few days once I have come up with a platform and a design. So we'll jump into that. So anyway, stay tuned, and we'll do some more with this thing. So as far as the stereo goes, we decided to go with this model. It's a decent Pioneer for the price. It's got enough of the features we were looking for. It's not the best model, but it's not the worst. So this is the Pioneer AVH 1300 NEX. So if you end up liking it, that's the model, and we'll probably go through how to use it. So it comes with the remote for the Bluetooth phone. We have the USB extension, which I'm not going to need because this car has USB there. I just have the adapter to order. This is the wiring harness plug, screws, warranty manual. And we continue, get down into the stereo. So we got the stereo partially hooked up, pretty much everything other than the USB adapter, the antenna adapter, and the backup camera. Still waiting on those harnesses. Just making sure everything works. We got the e-brake settings working, so like if you look at the settings here, the brake's up, we're in park. I turn that down, you lose menu options. It's an attempt for them to keep you from doing things while you're driving. So anyway, that's working, so we had to run the cable for that out to this. The harness is somewhat finished. Like I was saying, there's still parts I need. I just gotta clean it up back here, and then that remote cable I still have to deal with so that we can get the amp hooked up. So we'll deal with that as we get there. Right now it's just testing. Much louder and much cleaner than the old stereo, the factory stereo. So I'd say that's a good improvement, and we're on the right track to getting further along. So this is the Pioneer AVH 1300 NEX, and so far I like it. It seems pretty quick. So you know, I'm just was playing Bluetooth and stuff, but yeah, definitely like it. So I just got to continue waiting on the harness. That should be here soon, and then we can put the dash kit back together, and it'll be like nothing ever happened. So that's the update. So I also wanted to make mention, you will need a few things for the install for the FRS. So it's a 2016 FRS with the touchscreen, Pioneer Edition factory radio. And to make an aftermarket radio of any brand work, you're going to need, first of all, you're going to need the main wiring harness. This is for power and speakers and remote wire. It's this kit. So that is like 10 bucks. Then you'll also need, to make the antenna work, you will need this adapter, and you must hook up this as your remote, and then this is just your antenna, because this, I guess, turns on the antenna. It wouldn't come in without it. So that's the model number on that. This is the dash kit. This simply just helps it fit in better. Real simple. I did have to trim mine. Can't remember where, but I had to like cut a notch out to fit the factory mounting hardware, because you have to transfer the hardware off of the old deck to the new deck. so you will have to do a little cutting, but I did it with a pair of nippers and just broke off the little tabs. If you want to retain the USB that's in the dash, you will need this adapter also. There's model number. And lastly, go over here to Sonic. You will need this adapter for the rear view camera if you want to use it. This has pretty much everything. It was a pain to install. There's a wire somewhere on it. Doesn't really show in the picture, but I'll give you a separate wire that you have to run to your reverse trigger 12 volts. So whenever you put it in reverse, that light or that wire sees 12 volt, which tells the camera to turn on, so it triggers the deck. So that's in the kick panel. You have to actually run a cable from the kick panel to the back of the stereo. So that was with that harness, and this is a dual purpose harness. You only need one half of it. You need this half. This other half just sits in the dash, taped up at the end of the RCA. That's in case you wanted to add an aftermarket camera to the stock deck. So they give you that option, or you can add an aftermarket deck to the stock camera. And then once it's all together, it works fine. There is an adapter in there that you'll get that you must have, because on the Toyotas and all that, I don't see it. This guy right here, this converts your 12 volt signal from your reverse wire to 6 volts because the camera itself needs triggered. So you have to have this in line, and the instructions will tell you how it's done. You have to make sure the wires are done perfectly the right way, or else it won't work. The camera will not turn on unless it sees 6 volt. It won't turn on with 12 volt, and you could potentially hurt it. So that's kind of what I learned with that. I didn't go over it in real life on the video, but there's your full list. So there's all that. I'll probably put all those in the description for you FRS people. So let's get on with the video now. Alright, so we got more of the interior pulled out here. I think I'm going to call it a night. I'm getting kind of sore crouching over in this little car, and it's getting late. But what I have set up here is the all the accessories where those bolts were. That's all taken out. So those ones are going to be great for mounting, including the old seat belt. These two and that one stay underneath the trim panel, so you don't really have access. So I think they're going to make good grounds, especially this one. I can ground to that. I'm also doing dedicated ground from front to rear. I like to do that in my builds, so I'll show you guys more about that when I get to that point. I'll probably be doing a separate video on how to wire up all that stuff. And then you see these speaker wire. They're just extensions, some 16 gauge sky high, red and black, going into the old factory speaker, which is right in this area. Basically going to relocate. I got a pair of McLaren 6.5s, and they'll be up, kind of up around here. So I'm going to be building the box to fit the car, and then there'll be little side trims, and the speakers will mount in the trim. So he'll have the rear speakers still functioning. So I just got them little extension cords for now, up until the point he decides to do a 4-channel amp, and then we can freshly wire everything. So right now we're kind of utilizing the stock wiring. So we got the deck also set up here. It's temporarily installed. Got to get the rest of the wiring harness, but I did get to test it and hear it. Sounds very good. So it'll sound better once everything's done. And I discovered with this car the front speakers and the rear speakers work off the deck fine, but the door speakers are kind of like mid-range woofers, and they work off the factory amp back here. And so the remote wire is what turns that on. So I have to do a splice so that I have a remote wire going to that from the factory harness, and then I'll pull off from the same area, from the same wire, I'll pull another wire, which will be my remote for the sub amp when that goes in. So just a couple things I learned. Those won't turn on until you've turned the rear amp on with its remote. So anyway, we also pulled out this rear part because we're gonna get tint done. James is gonna do that for me, so we'll get that done 5%, and then also gives me some access. I think what I'm gonna do before installing the box and all that is I'm gonna partition off the trunk and the cab with a big board That's going to mount all the way around to somewhat seal off the trunk, because there's no need to get space in the trunk because it's all going to be up front. So anyway, guys, this is where we're at. We did the wiring under the hood now. As you can see, I got the wires coming in from the back, running into sky-high fuse holder up to the battery. We also have our alternator upgraded the ground and the power going to the battery. And I also retained the stock power, so that's all still there. And then we have this one going to the stock harness, and same over there. So it's pretty clean, and it all works. So looks pretty good to me. It's about what you can do with these. Just a few more zip ties, and I think it's going to be done. Maybe get this looking a little straighter or something. But for the most part, I like it. All right, so we're moving back here now. I got the stereo installed and the underhood wired and everything I need run to the back. So now it's time to actually start working on the enclosure and how we're going to secure that into the car. So as you can see, we have these black little foam pieces. They kind of raise from the floor and level out the trunk so that the trunk carpet can go in. Well, I've removed the one right here because this is the general area I want to put batteries and stuff. So I kind of wanted a place to actually mount those things. So I'm going to replicate that piece out of wood to build a strong base. So we pulled the piece out here, and I'm going to trace it out and make a platform that fits in. The goal is to utilize as much of the stock mounting as possible. So like these holes right here, and I can either try to use those or work around them. There's a stud right here I can use. So I want to utilize what I can as far as that goes. So that's going to be kind of the work back there, and then I'm going to build a divider that divides the trunk and the cab here. So that will go in next. I'm gonna put my side pieces back in to kind of get a reference on where that goes and work from there. So when I get a little farther along, I'll update you. All right, so back to working on this. Working in the back right now, getting set up with the kind of amp rack, battery rack setup I'm gonna go with. So in this car, if you remember, these foam blocks kind of space everything up so it's level on the trunk floor. I'm going to replace this big foam block with actual wood block, and then these are going to get secured down to the vehicle. Probably self-tappers. I have to be very careful with those because the depth, but if you do them right, they'll hold really good. So we'll secure all these little pedestals to the bottom, and then this guy goes in. This is like the floor for the batteries. So you can see that piece works out pretty good. And it will also secure to the back of my panel here, the divider piece, which bolts into the vehicle. So you can see the bolts. So anyway, the batteries will come in over here. I'm gonna move these little plugs. So they're gonna sit on the sides like that. So that's left one, and then the right one will mirror image. And it will rest on both this and this. So gravity wise, it's very held in. All I want is a security so that it won't slide around. So it's gonna get the like a tray also. So everything's gonna mount to other things too. So it should be pretty dang safe. Moving on from there, I think need to get these all secured in, and then get this piece put down onto it, secured to the rear, and then I can start building those trays. And I think what I'm gonna do is paint those black, because there's no reason to carpet it. You're not gonna really see it, but I don't want just raw wood. So that'll get covered. So we're gonna get to that point. But it's starting to shape up. And then his spare tire can still go in there. So we'll have that. And then up front, you can see the divider. And I don't know if I've shown it yet, but I have a pedestal piece that goes on the bottom here that meets with it also. And that's this piece, as you can see, kind of contours around the console and the floor and everything. So when I get farther along, I'll show you how that's all gonna go in, but it's kind of what I'm working on, is just getting this whole thing trigged out, secured to the car, and also keeping it somewhat removable. So I have to be very selective on what pieces I'm gluing together and what pieces I'm simply screwing together. So it'll give us options. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. All right, so did a bunch of work, didn't get much of the video of it, but we have the rear back together. You can see the center divider piece that separates the trunk and the cab is in. And we got the trunk floor. I didn't really get too much video, but that pedestal I built is in there too. So the batteries will be able to sit. There's photos. So check out the photos towards the end of the video. If we come around front here, you can see the platform's all installed. The interior's back in. I didn't carpet the whole thing because the box will be in there. But you can see how well that trims. Wish I had better lighting. Once I get it outside, you'll get a really good view of it. But we do need to just clean it, but you can see the contours here fit pretty good. Little details and things, so I just need to detail. There's scratches and things on his plastic, so a little bit of Armor All might make this really pop. We got the back windows tinted, so it's coming together. So what I'm working on right now is the amp rack and battery rack. So in the back of the car, we'll see these pieces. These are my battery boxes, and they sit on each side of the trunk, kind of like that, and the amp will be in the middle. So I want to go ahead and get these carpeted. We'll get them installed, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's the batteries. So we'll get in there, and I'll probably get everything wired up today, get the amp all set up for what I can, and then we'll start on the box. I got the design done this morning, so I'll be able to work on the box as soon as I'm done up here. So everything in the cab's ready to be just for a box to put in there. And I mean, this stuff's pretty solid. It's not going to move on him. Very, very sturdy. It's all bolted in. So anyway, we're going to continue on now, and we'll show you more progress. All right, so finally got the trunk done. It's been a lot of hours today. You wouldn't believe just how much there is in just wiring and making things run clean. But I'm really happy with the way it came out. He's got plenty of trunk space still, as you can see, and then all the equipment fit in. So we got the 2 batteries and 3.5K, all the 0 gauge OFC. Got the tint lugs on there. The lighting's pretty poor right now, but once we get out in the sunlight, you'll get a really good view. But there we go. It's all carpeted and installed. Nothing's gonna move around. It's really secured. Pretty happy with the way it came out. So you can see those wires in there. that's what we got. So that wraps it up for tonight. The car is practically done now except for the box. So all that really needs to happen is the box needs to be set in on my pedestal. So everything's set up and ready in there. Just needs a little vacuuming. But yep, it's coming along. All right, everybody, so here's the box so far. You can see that tilt on it, it's pretty good. You can also tell how everything lines up real clean. See how that angle works? So the front will go on very nicely. So there's the port, just a split L port, 2 separate chambers, 1.5 cubic feet per sub, tuned to 33 Hertz. We'll do a little port flare on the end once it's all together. It's gonna get carpet on the outside, paint on the inside, and some acrylic viewing windows in the front, so you'll get to see some of that tomorrow. But otherwise, pretty good looking box. DC level 412s. You can see pretty good looking speaker. You'll be able to see those nice motors from inside. You can see the roundover port, the roundover on the sub baffle. So it'll be a really clean little setup, and we should be getting close to done tomorrow. I'm gonna call it a night tonight with this one. We're gonna put it in the car and see kind of what it looks like in there too. All right, so this is where we're at. Got the under hood wired, like you saw earlier. The Sky High OFC, Sky High terminals. Everything's real clean. Go around to the back. Same deal. Got the Sky High OFC, 2 full throttle Group 34s, and the DC 3.5K. With all the Sky High fuse holders and inputs and battery terminals. Custom carpet, whole 9 yards there. So that's his trunk. When he goes to open it, I come around front. We installed him a double din Pioneer. So they detail everything. And then this is where we're at on the box. 2 DC audio, level 412s. As you can see there, custom box. Here's the platform it all sits on. I still have to make the side trims and finish the box. But that's a little preview what we're looking at here. You can see it'll be pretty cool. So stay tuned and we'll get this thing finished up. Not too much left to do. Just finish up the box and some of the little trim panels. We'll put the seats in and fire it up. So anyway, check in when that's closer to done. All right, so the car is out. We're giving it back to customer today. Do a little walk around of everything in the car. So that's our under hood with the Sky High OFC 0 gauge, Sky High terminals, big 3 happening here with the alternator. We'll move around towards the back, show you the amps. So we got 2 full throttle Group 34s. Got the DC audio 3.5K all wired up with Sky High OFC. Dual inputs here. Fuse holders. All the battery terminals. Tinned lugs. Whole 9 yards. You can get all this through my website, gpmbase.com. And then come around with the limo tent done. Custom box, tuned to 33 Hertz, plexiglass front windows, 2 DC level 4 12s. Get a good view of the box here. You can see the wiring. Try to get a good shot out here. It came together pretty clean. So there it is, guys. Now let's take a listen to it. All right, so just wanted to add in before you see the demo. Very short demo. I'm gonna get a lot more video of it next time I see him. He's gonna do a little help on my my Jeep. He knows how to weld and stuff, so I'm not very good at welding. Anyway, the system sounds perfect. It is such a good, smooth sounding setup. Everything is real even. I have the scores to prove it. We ran like sealed scores. The sealed scores aren't all that. But it's very flat, so it basically maintained between a 140 and 141 decibels throughout 25 to 55 hertz, completely flat, for the within a dB. So so it sounds like a band pass, very much so. It's very impressive. So the bandwidth is there. This car though doesn't like being sealed, so as soon as I open up a window, man, the score just jumps. So we ended up getting a 149 dB out of it at 33 hertz. With the windows down, or I think it was a door open or something. So it definitely likes being opened up. But keep in mind too, it's only clamping like 2,000 watts. So wired at 1 ohm on the DC 3.5K stock alternator, you know, and I've been playing it for a while. It's getting about 2,000 watts. So I think we're gonna, in the future, once he's kind of a little more used to it, this is his first large scale system. I chose a big amp so that we'd have some options later on and have the headroom. We're going to probably wire it down to like half ohm or something. I wanted to send it out without voiding the warranty, so that includes staying above 1 ohm. But once he's satisfied, those amps are fine to wire down lower. I run mine at 0.35 daily. I've ran them at quarter daily. So I'm going to get him the alternator at some point, and we're probably recone the subs or swap them out for like XL, the DC XLs, and run them, you know, get more than 3K out of that amp easy. So the score only has room to improve. But otherwise, considering the car, very happy with the score. I can probably safely say it's one of the loudest FRSs there is right now. It almost has a 50 on 2,000 watts. So, excuse the camera quality. That's kind of like the overview of the build. Stay tuned for more on that, and watch the video here. The rest of the video will just be the demo and all the build pictures, and there will be scores in there too to verify. But yeah, very, very pleased with it. It was one of my more favorite builds. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and please visit my website, jeepandbass.com. You can get DC audio, full throttle. I'll be adding McLaren soon, box designs. And then make sure to like and subscribe. I know this is a long video, but I think some people kind of like the long videos, so I thought I'd give it a try. So stay tuned, there'll be more. We got a lot more going on. So alright, guys.
From
Pretty loud.
Shop looking lavish, Star Trek groove in the Wraith the Con. Girls get loose when they hear the song. 100 on the dash, give me
Put your window up.
Menaging with your boy, trying to drink my unborn. Licking on each other, acrobatics with their tongue. Shake it like Beyonce, blowing the alarm.